course, we have a general guide, a general book of what behaviors dogs do and what they mean. However, like people have their own mannerisms, and sometimes those generalities don't necessarily apply to an individual depending on that individual's behavior and experiences. So it's true for dogs. Dogs have their own mannerisms. Dogs have their own habits, and we have to interpret those mannerisms and habits per the individual. We have to know what it means for your dog specifically. That is what it means to become fluent in speaking your dog's language. And so if you're interested in taking a more nerdier approach to understanding your dog's behavior, then this video is for you. Let's get into it. What's up, guys? It's Jenna with Dog Liaison, where I coach you on how to enhance your dog's mental health. On this channel, we like to take a nerdier approach to dog behavior, so if that's your vibe, consider subscribing. I'm a professional dog trainer, and in my signature program, the Recovering Rover program, I work with guardians of dogs facing multiple anxiety-related disorders. One of the very first lessons that they do is start to observe their dog's behavior, collect data, and analyze and interpret what that behavior means for their dog. And so in this video, I'm kind of taking you a little behind the scenes. I'm gonna share some of my tricks so that you can learn how to read your dog better. Through evolution, humans are pretty darn good at reading dog body language, just intuitively actually. That's been scientifically proven. We understand these overt behaviors pretty dang well. We understand when a dog is growling, that they want more space. We understand when they're super excited, they will probably make themselves small, they'll approach us, their tail will be wagging, and they'll actually move their hips a little bit, so there'll be lots of fluidity in the body. We pick up on these subtle behaviors and we understand them pretty well. However, if you actually want to become a master at understanding your dog's behavior, you kind of need to forget about the overt behaviors. Instead, I want you focusing on the subtle behaviors, the more discreet ones that are harder to find. For example, is your dog blinking a whole lot? Where's your dog's cheekbones? Where's your dog tail posture? You wouldn't just say, oh, it's up, but you would say, oh, it's at 12 o'clock, or it's at 2, or it's at 3, or it's at 6. You would be more specific about where that tail posture is. You'll notice, oh, his legs were positioned in different places. That is the level of subtlety that I want to talk about in this video. Now, when you're analyzing your dog's behavior, you want to be looking for both bravery signals and stress signals. Bravery signals being, I'm going to engage with that thing, I'd like to learn more about it, this is intriguing. And stress being, this is causing me more resources than I would like to expend. Now, for the purpose of this video, when I say stress, I mean that really neutrally. I don't necessarily mean stress in a bad way, like he hates it or he's fearful of it necessarily. And the reason is, from a scientific perspective, when we think of stress, it's very objective. What that really just means is that the body is putting out more expenditure than it would like to in a normal case, right? It's expending more resources, and so therefore it's requiring more effort. And our bodies are hardwired to automate behaviors as much as it possibly can, automate experiences as much as it can in order to conserve resources. So when I talk about stress in this context, just know that I don't necessarily mean it as bad. I just mean it as arduous effort. Here are some more subtle behaviors that you can be looking for in your data collection. We have the play stretch, a yawn, the shake off, a banana curve, which we see a lot of our bully breeds do, where they sort of lean into their guardian and they push their side up and they kind of curve their body. We call that the banana curve. A step forward in that stalk position, dilated eyes, quick scanning eyes, blinking, sneezing, scratching excessively without obvious allergies, gnawing on paws or self-mutilation, the forefoot stab, which is that pounce on the floor that we see, a puppy pounce, for example, and the different sounds that a dog barks, all the way to how many times they're actually barking. Now, I did do a full science explained on, what is my dog saying when he barks? And I definitely recommend, if you're interested in digging deeper into the bark, that is a great video for you to check out. I'll link it in the description box below as well. But you wouldn't just want to write, oh, he barked. Instead, you would want to notate it was a higher pitched bark, or it was more guttural and deep. It was very loud and obnoxious, or it was just kind of a hoof. You would also want to notate how many times the dog barked. So was it a double bark, like a ruff ruff? Or was it just one single? All of those things mean different things for your individual dog. You're not going to be able to find a book that says a double bark means this, and a triple bark means that. Or if you do find that book, you just have to know that it's pretty much BS. There's no science that necessarily says a double bark means this and a triple bark means that. So you want to be able to recognize there's a pattern here, and then you interpret what it means for your dog. Here's an example of what I mean. In the RP, we have Team Fiona, and what Mom noticed about Fiona was that she really enjoyed crossing her legs, and she was most content and comfortable in a lay position if her front legs were crossed. However, if she wasn't demonstrating that crossed legs, if they were put off to the side, that was indicative of more stressed Fiona. And so they could actually tell how Fiona was feeling around them based on how Fiona was laying down. Was she crossing her legs or was she not? That's not something that you can find in a book, guys. You are not going to be able to see, whenever a dog crosses their legs, that means they're more content. And if a dog has uncrossed their legs, that's less content. If you actually read that anywhere, that would be such an overgeneralization that there's no way to prove that. That's not scientific. But you can examine patterns within your own dog. You can look for what does it mean when your dog crosses her legs? What does it mean when your dog scratches her ear? What does it mean when your dog has more tension in her cheekbones? What does it mean when your dog is standing more tense in the rear and scrunching up her butt? That is what we're tracking. Now, you've heard me say the phrase tracking and data collection. You've heard me say, analyzing. Here's where we get nerdy, my friends. Okay, I'm just gonna put it out there. I understand that not everybody wants to take a scientific approach to working with their dog. On this channel, we do like doing that. And I am a huge, huge proponent of tracking your dog's behavior on objective logs. And what this means is you're going to set up a particular context and repeat it for control. You would not necessarily want to examine your dog's behavior across the board in every single context right out of the gate. You probably could do that more intuitively, and you probably actually already are. And that will get you decently far. But that's just it. It's intuitive. It wouldn't necessarily be very concrete, and you might find that you're not getting the results out of that you really want. So instead, you want to do what a researcher would do, what a scientist would do. They would pick a specific context and repeat that context, repeat that event over and over and over again. So perhaps you decide, I'm going to only examine my dog at the dog park when his best friend is there. Or I'm only going to study my dog when he's on walks in the morning with me. Or I'm only going to study my dog right now when we're playing a small game in the living room in the afternoon. Like, you pick a context and you repeat that context over and over and over and over and over again. And then you study your dog's behavior. And this is something that's really important, is you're not actually studying your dog's behavior in the moment. I don't really recommend that. Instead, I want you to be present with your dog in the moment. I want you to listen in real time to what you're intuitively picking up. Then later on, when you're not in that moment, you actually watch a video of the event, which is to say you have recorded these events on your phone, on Instagram, whatever you want, and you are going back, watching the video again, and really paying attention to those minute, subtle behaviors. You're logging them. Write them down on a piece of paper. Then you want to do this experiment probably 5 to 10 times. I don't recommend much less than 5 unless it's a very difficult event to track, right? Because it just doesn't happen very often. But primarily you want several experiments to collect that data and analyze it. And then when you go back into that data, you're looking for trends. You're looking for events that occur repeatedly. You're not just saying, oh, he kept giving me eye contact. That is okay, but I would consider he's giving me eye contact a pretty overt behavior. Most dogs, especially when they're enriched and when they're in a healthy state, will offer their guardians eye contact. We know this. So instead, you want to look for, what was really interesting is there's always a pause before he brings the ball back to me. Or what's really interesting is every single time we hit that corner on our walk, he always licks his lips. You're looking for those trends that keep occurring. Now, same thing, if you just kind of look at your data sheet blindly with no focus, you'll probably pull your hair out. You won't actually find what you're looking for because you're looking too vastly. Instead, you want to get more narrow. So I do recommend you start off with that hunch, right? I see that my dog lays this way on his side. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to interpret that, but I see that he's laying on his side. So I'm going to only look at, when is my dog laying on his side? When in our data does it repeatedly happen? Or, my trainer told me that I need to pay more attention to him yawning. I don't know why. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's a good stress, a bad stress, a bravery signal. I don't know. But I'm going to study, when is my dog yawning? Does it happen around the same time of day? Does it happen around the same event at the context? Does it happen after a same behavior? So maybe you notice that he always yawns after he play stretches. He does a play stretch and then he does a big audible yawn, right? Then once you have analyzed what the patterns are, then you can start to see, do I think this is a good thing or a bad thing? And you can usually indicate whether or not a behavior is a bravery signal or a bad thing, a bad stress, for example, based off of what comes next. What is the behavior that follows? Is it more engaging or is it more distant? Is he more exhausted or is he more rejuvenated? You can interpret a behavior based off of what follows that behavior. And then you can start to see if there's a trend. Do I notice that every single time my dog yawns, he is telling me, I'm really tired, I want to go to bed, or I want to leave, or whatever. For example, I can tell you that my dog Max, you can see his little picture back there, my dog Max, when he's stressed, he's going to start off by the happy taps. Right? He's gonna start pacing, he's gonna happy tap with me, and then he's gonna start putting his head in my lap. He's gonna come over and he's gonna put his head in my lap. He might jump on me, and then he's gonna start barking at me. And that is his progression of, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed, I don't like this, I need something. That is the progression that he's gonna go. So what that tells me is, if he's giving me those happy taps, I need to change how I'm communicating with him, or else he's just gonna progress in negative stress. He's just gonna progress in frustration. This is understanding your dog's behavior, interpreting what it means for your dog. You're doing this through trends. You're doing this through data collection. You're doing this through analyzing. Now, a lot of times people may say, Jenna, I don't want to have to do all this data collection. I don't want to have to analyze. Can't I just go to a trainer to just tell me what it means? My friend, I can assure you, no trainer is ever going to be able to interpret your dog's behavior at the proficiency and skill that you will, period. Even if they have read every scholastic journal under the sun, they've read every peer-reviewed study that exists, even if they have worked with millions of dogs, they will not be able to interpret your dog to the same proficiency that you will. Why? Because they don't have the intuitive connection with your dog, that's one. And two, because they have literally by mere hours, there's no comparison. You've spent an exorbitant amount of hours, far beyond what that trainer is willing to commit to your individual dog. You have seen these behaviors far more frequently. I'm a firm believer that even if I had a photographic memory, I could point out a behavior was happening, but I would not be able to fully interpret it, fully know what it means, unless I have a rapport with that dog, a deep rapport. Here's a human example of what I mean. You might see an individual, you might see me, kind of sit back, cross my arms, slouch a little, maybe I have a little bit of pout, right? And our human behavior, our human brains are hardwired to recognize that as more shut off, right? Less approachable. We do this intuitively, we do this subconsciously, we just know, shut off. However, you won't necessarily know just how shut off or just how distant an individual is unless you have rapport with them. So for example, when my husband sees me cut off and shut down, he knows that I'm thinking. It's not that I'm mad, it's not that I may have RBF, but it's not that I'm angry, it's that I'm heavy into thought. And I'm in my little cocoon and he just has to let me have his moment. I'm not mad at him, we're not in an argument, I just need space. But he knows that because of our rapport. He knows that because we've built context, we built relationship. Another individual who just met me yesterday would think I was angry, would think I was really mad at something, right? That is what I mean by just because you have a behavior and just because you know a behavior doesn't mean you can interpret it for an individual until you have rapport and experience with that individual. I promise that if you put in the work, you put in the analyzing, you put in the effort to interpret your individual dog, you will be speaking with your dog at such a proficient dialogue that you didn't even know was possible. I have guardians DM me and say, I heard you say in this episode and in that video that, I'm supposed to have a conversation with my dog. I'm supposed to ask my dog questions. I'm supposed to hear their answers. How do I do that? This is how you do that. This right here, by putting in the work to listen and analyze your dog's responses. This is how you start to have a fluent conversation and speak the same language as your dog, where you can freely just ask them a question and you know what the answer is. You don't even have to think about it because you can read their behavior. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you get notified when I drop a new video, and I'll see you guys next week.